Well, Brian, we watched a very entertaining match, you'd have to say, between Wolves and Leicester City. No goals, though, in the end. It finished 0-0. Not a great result, I suppose, for Leicester City if they've still harbouring ambitions of getting a top four place this season.
Yeah, well, not a particularly bad result either. Wolves a good side, as we know. They've been struggling a bit lately, not in the form they were in last year, missing some key players. Obviously, Jimenez, the centre forward, is a massive loss for them, and Bowley missed out today. I don't know whether that meant much in terms of the selection. Great for them to have Johnny back. Only played the first 45 minutes, but like in advance of the match, I thought Leicester would have enough to beat Wolves. But as the game went on, I had to admire how well Wolves played, Stephen, and I thought they more than earned their point today. It wasn't a lucky point. Patricio wasn't busy, neither was Schmeichel. But Schmeichel made the big save of the match late in the game from young Fabio Silva, had a great chance, and Schmeichel made a marvellous save with his left foot. And other than that, Wolves could have won the game. Leicester's point of view, well, Manchester United drew last night, so didn't lose any ground to them. The key teams for them, I suppose, are Manchester City, Liverpool. I think Manchester City will be too far ahead of them anyway. Chelsea, Spurs, Everton even. I mean, Everton, you look at Everton, Man United, it was a good draw. If you look for Leicester specifically, you say, what results do you want with the other teams? Well, if they're playing each other, you want them to be draws. They'd like a draw for Liverpool and Manchester City today, because that means they don't lose any ground to either of them. And that could well happen. So it wasn't a great result for them, given their away form. They've been very, very good. You pointed out before the match, I think it was 11 games, 8-2-1. Is that right? Only one defeat in the 11 away games. So from that point of view, but it's hard to put a rationale on that and why their away form has been so good, because there's no crowds in the stadiums. That's one reason for it. But why is their own home form not so good? They've lost 5 at home. It's probably because the opposition goes away to them and don't feel threatened. There's no hostility towards them. But it was a fair result no matter what way you look at it.
Regards to Leicester, was around this time last season that the wheels started to come off for them a little bit, because they'd occupied up around the top four. They'd been up. They'd occupied the top position a couple of times last season, and around this time last season it started to come apart for them. They did lose a couple of players through injury, a couple of key players, the likes of Ricardo Pereira, Chala Siunchu went at one stage as well, so Johnny Evans was suspended for the last 2 matches when they were really pushing for that top four. Do you think that Brendan Rodgers will have learned from what happened last season, and hopefully if he keeps his players fit, that they can get that Champions League place?
Yeah, I think the key thing was the strength of the squad, and they were caught out last year. Last 2 games they lost to Spurs and lost to Manchester United the last day, which was the only time they were out the top four last season. It was kind of harsh on them, but they were probably found a little bit short. This year they look like a better squad. Fofana has turned out to be another real find for them. They've been very good in the recruitment side. Pereira's got back; he's back fit again. Although they've done fine in the full back positions. Castagna, good sign. Now, I didn't think he was having a great game against Leeds last week, but he's another player. He's out today. Indeed, he's out. Mendy's out. We mentioned earlier on. In the light of that, and Vardy been out also, I think they've handled it quite well, and the results have been reasonably consistent given that, and it gives them a very good chance. I mean, it's not like everybody else has been remarkably consistent. It's wide open now for someone to get a grip of it. The European stuff will have an effect on some of the teams that are up there, including Leicester. The match with Slavia Prague coming in, so it's all up for grabs, as they say. I think Manchester City are the only guaranteed team that are going to make the top four, as far as I'm concerned. The others, it could go either way for Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea. I think Spurs are out of it. Leicester are certainly involved in it. Everton are involved in it. But I think it'll probably come down to I think Liverpool will make it, and I think it'll come down between Chelsea, Manchester United, and probably Leicester. I can't really see any of the others having the consistency required to make that top four.
Just on United, Brian, a lot of the attention and focus was on David De Gea last night, and I suppose rightly so, for a couple of errors that he made. But I have to say, watching that game last night, and like many other Manchester United games, this season. Harry Maguire just seems to be one of the glaring problems in that United back four, and he will probably be the starting defender, or one of the starting defenders for England this year in the European Championship. There just seems to be a bit of a blind spot with Harry Maguire when it comes to the assessment of his performances in England.
I think that might be a bit harsh in that he had a bad start to this season. There was various reasons for that. I think the incident in
Greece.
Turkey, in Greece, rather, was partly a problem, as was I think the whole situation where the number of games England had, the shortness of the pre-season, the sharpness of the return to the new season, the lateness of Manchester United's involvement in European football last year. But he didn't have a good start, but I think he's settled down, and over the last while I think he has shown the form that people thought he was well capable of when he came from Leicester initially. And I think the pairing with Bali has been good at times. Lindelof has come back in for recent matches. I think he's okay. I think he's done quite well. At the international level, you're waiting to see how it is with England when it comes to it. There's a lot of rave and spoof about how good they are and how many good young players they have for all positions on the pitch. Well, that remains to be seen how they perform when it comes to the real business of a championship. I mean, we saw some of the matches in the qualifiers and the Nations League. They weren't that good, and I remember the game in particular in Iceland where they struggled and eventually won the match with a penalty late in the game, and were lucky Iceland got a penalty and missed it late on. You're looking at some of the players going, really, are they that good? And the doubts remain until they achieve something substantial with these players as to how good those players actually are. But Harry Maguire is a key player for them. He's got to be in good form. They have other options now in the picture. Stones is probably back in the picture now. We'll see how it gets on today against Liverpool. But he's back in the picture again. Cody, who's my player, has done very well for them. We saw today, had a very steady game today, and he lost a bit of form lately too, and he's probably back in the picture. So I think it's up for grabs. Just as I'm saying, the top four positions are the central defensive positions for England, and many other positions are not nailed down, I'd say, and Gareth Southgate will be attending lots and lots of matches and making his mind up on those players before the end of the season. Plenty of time left to do that before the summer games, but even for the World Cup qualifiers, that will have an influence, I'm sure, on his decisions.
We should mention the home team as well, Brian, because Wolves, I did wonder maybe in recent weeks whether Nuno Espirito Santo had maybe reached a level with Wolves that he couldn't really take them any further. But there's been a lot of influence maybe around him with regards to transfers and stuff, players coming in. I don't know how much control he has about the type of players he recruits, or whether
I think he has a fair influence. That's Stephen. I'm looking at today how many players from Porto now play for Wolves, and they're Portuguese, and he's Portuguese. So I think there might be a bit of a link there.
He does have his pal Mendes, doesn't he, as well, in the background?
That's but you look at the players they signed, they're generally Portuguese or Spanish. Well, Spanish centre forward, they were under a bit of pressure. They took Jose, but again, I think
they were back today, though.
I think it was inevitable today, the dip. 2 great seasons, finished in 7th place, same group of players taking on European football, and today they found a way to get back to that form with that formation. Then Dunker going back in, not the same players, but Johnny can back into a Cody back at his best, goalkeeper at a comfortable time. Semedo certainly as good as Matt Doherty as a full back, whether he is as a wing back, because Doherty was very effective and scored goals for them, but Semedo's a good player. And Traore played well today. Neto very, very good. The 2 centre midfield players, good performance by them, back to the form. Never going to be in relegation danger. Probably won't make the European places this year, probably end up in mid-table. And I think that's for them, it's probably a bit frustrating because they've spent a good bit of money assembling those players, but they've not spent an awful lot of money lately. Most of it's on the young centre forward Silva, who has a bit to do. It's all about his potential, I think, with him, and the short term is waiting on Jimenez to get back up signing Jose.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.